Welcome to your first day with the TFES, the Terra Foundation of Exploration and Science. In your new position as a Terranaut, you will be given the exciting opportunity to explore the mysterious continent of Tier Esteron. Tier Esteron is currently located in the sea. The most common theory is that Tier Esteron is from a neighboring dimension. It has appeared intermittently on Earth since why or when it appears is unknown, but when it is on Earth it can be explored. Tier Esteron is teeming with strange alien life and natural resources. As a Terranaut, it will be your responsibility to chronicle and sample these resources. To do this, you will be given the latest in survival equipment and proper training. By signing your contract, you have accepted that the TFES is not liable for your likely death. Common causes of death on Tier Esteron are poison, dismemberment, crushing, consumption, falling, impaling, shredding, burst lungs, lost limbs, melting, burning, castration, starvation, parasitic invasion, internal organs gaining sentience, physical body being scattered across time and space, and diarrhea. Welcome to the TFES family. Good luck.
Right, so what are we doing today? I've been wanting to sculpt a Terranaut for a while, so that's what we're going to do. The intro to this video tells you a little bit about what Terranauts are. But if this video is going to make any sense, I should probably explain it a little bit more. I'll start from the beginning. Tier Esteron is a large spiraling landmass that intermittently appears on Earth. It's thought that Tier Esteron has been appearing on Earth for thousands of years, and it might be the source of many of our myths and legends. The most common theory is that it comes from another dimension, or it's a whole bunch of dimensions awkwardly smashed together. We follow an organization called the Terra Foundation of Exploration and Science. To explore Tier Esteron, the Terra Foundation uses Terranaut. Terranaut comes from the Latin terra as in land and nautis as in sailor. Astronaut makes a bit more sense because it's astro as in space and stars, and nautis as in sailor, so star sailor. Land sailor doesn't really make a lot of sense, but Terranaut sounds really cool. And it's my video, I'll do what I want. Just back off a bit, yeah? Now, Terranauts used to be some of the best and brightest, recruited from all over the world. Unfortunately, sending your best and brightest to an extremely hostile environment ends up being not very cost effective. As a result, most current Terranauts are severely underqualified. Most qualified Terranauts are held back until the situation is deemed slightly safer or has a degree of control. The idea is that although most Terranauts are underqualified, if you release loads of them onto Tier Esteron, most of them are going to die. But eventually someone's going to find something of interest. Maybe like a new super durable alloy, or a cure for baldness or something. It's like sea turtles. They have 1 million billion babies and they all hatch at the same time. The mums know that most of them are going to get eaten, but statistically one of them is probably going to grow up and get a plastic straw stuck up his nose. This is actually my second attempt at sculpting a Terranaut, which is one of the reasons this video took so long to come out. The first design was sort of a cross between a deep sea diver, like an old school deep sea diver, like a Cuba Gooding Jr. deep sea diver, crossed with a xenomorph, and it was all white, and it was cool, and it was streamlined, and it was weird, and it was alien, but it was just too cool. I don't want these guys to look cool. I want them to look sort of clunky and cumbersome and industrial, with a big splash of retrofuturism in there. I like spacesuits. You can keep your Iron Man and your Master Chief. Give me Yuri the Cosmonaut any day. When it came to the design of this suit, there was a few influences. There was the artwork by Derek Stenning. I think I said that right. He does these fantastic cosmonaut designs. He's got a book out, and there's a bunch of model kits made from his designs. Adam Savage does a video on them, which is quite interesting. Some of the other influences were suits from Alien, Spock's suit in, I can't remember which one it was, one of the Star Treks, and then just the general aesthetic from stuff like Forbidden Planet and, you know, films like Return to Planet X and all that stuff. Another reason why I wanted to make these guys is to help me sort of introduce scale. There is no real scale when it comes to my creatures. I print them all about the same size so they look good on a shelf. But then you don't have any real idea how big they are in relation to each other. So I thought a good way to sort of let you know how big they are is to add a little Terranaut. For example, if I've got something T-Rex sized and he's got a little pair of legs hanging out of his mouth, you can see how big he is. Also, I've got some weird trippy things that I want to do with them later. Now, this Christmas bauble I called a Nimbus node. It's probably the most important part of the suit. It bobs along behind the Terranaut on a cable, and it does everything important really. It powers the suit, it filters the air, it's got an onboard AI, and it's a great place to keep your sandwiches. It can also dock into the back of the suit and give a Terranaut a brief amount of flight. Well, not really flight, more like a big jump. I love that scene in the second Dune film where all the Harkonnens are sort of flying up the side of that cliff face. So I stole it. Eagle-eyed viewers might notice he's holding a worm. This is the same sort of worm that was in one of my previous videos. They're called spiral worms and they're like cow shit in a field. Absolutely everywhere. I did a few designs for the base. The first one had more spiral worm nests over it with eggs that was being incubated, but it was getting a bit too complicated and I accidentally deleted it. I eventually settled on a sharp, craggy, it's going to be purple floor. Tier Esteron has a huge purple wasteland which I've yet to come up with a name for. I'm thinking something along the lines of the Violet Shards. It's a vast and broken landscape of purple, sharp rocks. Even the gravel you work on is just crushed up sharp stones. A sandstorm will rip your flesh from your bones unless you wear your special suit. Anyway, the sculpture's finished. Moving on. Here it is in all its green glory. I decided to print this one in Kryptonite because Superman keeps stealing my shit. Only joking, Kryptonite isn't real, you moron. I purposely went for green over crystal clear because I wasn't sure how transparent I was going to be able to get the helmet. So I thought if I could get it completely clear and green, it would look cool. And if it's just translucent, I could still put an LED in there and the light would diffuse, so it's going to be a glowing green dome, which I thought would look cool anyway. So it was a win-win really. Now I wanted to print this in parts to make it easier to paint, but for some reason it wouldn't let me. Something corrupted in the file, so I had to print it all in one big lump. So that meant I had to take forever masking off all the different parts. After the masking fluid had gone off, I gave this whole thing a liberal coat of a nice orange. Once that had dried, I decided I didn't like that orange anymore, and I went over with a slightly more reddy orange. Then I picked out those details with a bit of dry brushing. Now this was satisfying. Do you ever paint PVA glue on your hands when you're in school, just so you could peel it off? Or sacrifice small animals to Gorluther, the fetid one, in return for an orange slushie? It's funny how we all have those sort of universal childhood memories. You might notice a few print lines that I missed here and there. I could sand them out. I could also look after my own mental health. But But I won't. Is there any better sci-fi colour scheme than orange and off-white? I guess it's been done to death, but people use it for a reason. Colour plays an important part when it comes to a Terranaut. The colour of your suit indicates what rank you are. Orange is your common researcher, white is your medic, blue is for science, and black is combat and weapons specialists. These orbs were originally meant to be green lights, but because I couldn't print this in sections, I couldn't get an LED in the torso. So I went in a different direction and thought they could be cameras with a black and gold colour scheme. They could work really well. I ended up really liking it. The 4 lenses reminded me of a jumping spider's eyes, and then the pipes and tubes underneath sort of look like his mouth parts. I found it interesting that even the human element of this visual story end up looking like creatures, albeit accidentally. These are just the metal seals around the boots. I'm not 100% sure what these things are on the back of his hands, but I thought they'd look good in a dirty high-vis yellow. Well, I've said it loads of times before, I'm a little bit colourblind. I find it difficult to figure out what tones to use in a face. So what I've done here is use a technique a lot of portrait oil painters use, which is laying on certain colours on certain parts of the face. So it's red around the nose and the cheeks, yellow on the temples, or anywhere where bone is close to the surface of the skin. And then I use a little bit of teal around the 5 o'clock shadow area. Once that was done, I used some thin glazes of a flesh just to blend everything together. I think it came out okay, but I might look like a clown to you lot. I really had to fight the urge to make this purple. I thought it looked too much like Buzz Lightyear. But if I didn't know what Toy Story was, you bet your last roller this be purple. Excuse me a second. No, not again. Blue. This was pretty exciting, for me at least. I finally cracked the ratio for a good oil wash. I was using way too much paint in the past. You literally just need the tiniest bit. It's crazy how much a simple oil wash can bring a model to life. And the beauty of oil washes rather than acrylics, I found, is you've got ages to work with it. I could probably wipe this off tomorrow. I went for a peachy flesh with a purple striped on the back for the spiral worm. I thought the purple back would act well as sort of a camouflage. Now it's time to paint the Nimbus node. This was almost off-white and orange, but I wanted it to look a little bit more industrial, a little bit more cosmonauty, or at least what America thought would be cosmonauty in the 70s. So I gave it a coat of black with a heavy dry brush of silver, and then a wash of, I think it's called Nun Oil. It's the Games Workshop stuff. It's really good, actually. To make these camera stroke sensor lenses a little bit more realistic, I just gave them a quick coat of UV resin. UV resin is quickly becoming my favourite material. I needed to make this thick, girthy worm a little bit wetter, so I give that a coat of UV resin as well. I've also forgotten to paint his other pupil in. Looks like a Bond villain. Time to bust out the old milliput. It's a bit old. This stuff's harder than your uncle. Ordinarily, I'd make perfect little shoe-sized holes for the feet to lock into on the base. But ZBrush wasn't playing ball this time round, so I'm going to go old school and use a bit of milliput. I blended that milliput in with some water, and I roughed it up a little bit with some stones to match the surrounding texture. To make the base a bit more exciting, I'm going to add some stones and some sand. I start by just blobbing on some slightly watered down PVA glue. I got this sand from a building site. It's pretty good because all the grains are different sizes, so it scales quite well. After that, I slapped on some thicker glue and started adding different size stones. I used a combination of real bits of slate and kitty litter. The cool thing about kitty litter is that it's really pitted and has lots of texture, so they look like tiny little moon rocks. Once that was all dry, I gave it a nice coat of primer and then started laying on my pupils. I did some experimenting with these purples. I sort of randomly laid on about 3 different purples and a couple of strong blues, and then tried to put glazes over the top to blend them in. I've got no idea if it worked, but fingers crossed. And then to bring out all those lovely sharp details, I gave it a good dry brush with some blues, some greys and some whites. Right, riddle me this. Resin 3D printers can print the most amazing tiny details. If you want to print a dragon that's covered in tiny scales and spikes and teeth, no problem. But if you ask it to print a simple primary shape, it freaks the fuck out. As a result, the bottom of this base is all warped. Normally I'd use car body filler to fix this, but I didn't have any to hand, so I'm just using a little bit more milliput. It's not the biggest problem in the world, but it's a bit annoying. And once that milliput had hardened, I stuck it to a cheap MDF base that I got off Etsy and gave it a coat of the obligatory black 3.0. The final step is to glue this mofo down and then we're finished. I did a little bit of extra work on his helmet off camera to try and make it clear. I decided not to put it in the video because I thought it'd be nice to show a little reveal at the end. Stick around for a quick informational video from the TFES, and then it's off to the glamour shots. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe and all that guff. Bye!
Welcome, explorers, to the future of deep zone extraterrestrial exploration, the Arcus suit. You are about to step into one of the most advanced exo-environmental systems ever developed. This isn't just a suit, this is a fully integrated survival platform. Let's walk through what you will be depending on when you step onto the surface of a Class 3 xenobiotic zone, known as Tier Esteron. Suit overview. You are being issued the Arcus MKIV, our latest and most durable model of the Arcus. That stands for Adaptive Reconnaissance Kinetic Operations System, and each of those words reflects its purpose. This suit is designed for hostile, unknown environments, certified specifically for Class 3 xenobiotic zones. That means you're going into places where biology, terrain, and atmosphere are unpredictable, and potentially lethal. Core components. Atmos Shield Helmet. Your lifeline. Designed to shield you from hostile atmospheres and maintain internal equilibrium. Integrated optics will enhance low light and recon visibility. You will be seeing things most people on Earth never will. Make sure you're seeing them clearly. Nimbus Node. This is your data spine. Think of it as the brain floating outside your head, safely tethered, feeding mission telemetry, biometrics, and localized scanning back to your team and your onboard rig. If anything's out there, it'll know before you do. Nexus Rig. The heart of your suit's power and control systems. It distributes energy to the entire system, houses environmental controls, and anchors your loadout. The power cell reads at 100%, expect standard endurance under nominal conditions. High kinetic output may reduce charge faster. Heat vent. Located on the back, don't block it. The suit channels excess thermal energy away from your body here. On hot or high-stress missions, proper venting could be the difference between mission continuation and a system shutdown. Loadout specs. You're currently configured for Recon Terrain mode, which includes Recon Optics, for spotting terrain irregularities, xenobiotic forms, or entry points from a distance. Terrain Adaptive Boots, these shift traction response based on feedback from the ground beneath you. Solid footing, even on unstable alien terrain. BioSeal Underskin. This layer seals any punctures in real time to prevent contaminant exposure. It won't save you from a full breach, but it'll buy you precious seconds. Operational status. Suit status, standby. Power cell, 100%. Clearance level, 2A. User ID, redacted, for your protection and ours. Final notes. This suit is not invincible, but it is smart, responsive, and built to keep you alive when the environment around you decides otherwise. Trust it. Maintain it. And remember, you are the cutting edge of human exploration. Stay alert. Stay alive. And welcome to the frontier. Godspeed, Terranaut.